Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Monday night, the 28th of December. We are just closing in to the last days of 2020. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest rock salt provider and a provider of everything you need to get you through winter storms when they come back. Because we're not looking at winter storms in our area in the short range anyway. 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town on all winter weather cleaning products. And they're at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. The website is omnitruevalue.com. Mr. Rayo,
Yes,
a crisp, business-like good evening to you.
it turned out to be a chilly, actually not really compared to what's coming over the next day or two. Today was the mild day. Tomorrow
True.
and Wednesday is going to get a bit chillier indeed.
Now, before we get to the weather, Joe, I must tell you we have breaking news. We have breaking news that's um, uh, on the same level as it was prior to the big snowstorm in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, if you recall. It's bigger than that. It's oh my lord! I mean, it might be the biggest story of the.
2020.
No, I don't know about 2020, but it's big. So,
Okay.
are you? I mean, the backlash that has resulted in this is unmeasurable. Okay, and here we go. If you would just bear with me here, I'm just going to try and find it. I thought I had it here. Where'd it go? Is
I
it
have a
this
feeling that
one?
you had something up your sleeve because it's a different type of format.
Wait a
I'm
minute.
seeing the two of us side by side already.
Okay, hold on. I now, of course, when I want to get this, I can't get this. So let's see if I can try it this way. This is a breaking news headline, Mr. Rayo. And it's in the from the Washington Post. Okay, it's it's even bigger when Parker prepped prod for Preem on I Love Lucy. Okay,
Okay.
it is. Weather Service faces backlash after launching
In,
unusable radar website.
oh, I love it.
After launching quote slow quote unusable radar website.
I love it.
Isn't it?
Yep.
Is and it just goes. I didn't even get it. I saw this just pop up, and I said, no, I have to do this. This is actually in for those of you who probably the Capital Weather Gang, and they do I think it's a weekly podcast on weather and weather issues and weather stuff. Um, they uh, they apparently they have a column in the Washington Post, and I'm just reading it now. The Weather Service launched its first new website for radar imagery since the early 2000s, touting it as a major upgrade. The public didn't see it that way. Horrible, really low quality work, very, very buggy, unusable, absolutely terrible, not ready for public release, garbage. And the worst represent a sample of complaints users on social media since the weatherradar.gov went live. I have to tell you, these people are right. It really it's terrible. I try to be kind. I've got I know Bill and Bill Goodman, and he's on the show sometimes, and he works for the Weather Service. I don't like to make him feel bad, but I didn't have to because he let me know what he thought of it too. so um, so
This is the
hopefully,
worst. This is the worst thing since WCBS FM went to Jack Radio. Remember that?
oh
Those of you
yeah,
who
yeah.
and everybody hated it. However, it did take about 3 years for them finally to stop and say we can't keep on with this, and they went back to the old format of oldies. And I don't know how long it's going to take the Weather Service to change. I'm hoping they are going to change because we've been talking about this now for the last week or so. It is a horrendous, terrible
Yeah,
uh,
it really.
draft.
I was. I was playing around with it, and I got it to a couple of different combinations with the settings and everything else, where it looked semi presentable, but it was too much work to get it to that point. And then I went back to it to get it ready for the show tonight, and I practically had to start from scratch. And after about 2 minutes into it, I was at my wits' end, and I said, I'm not doing this anymore, and I just left it alone. But yeah, they need to do something. Bring back the old stuff and bring back the GIFs too, because that made my life a lot easier than it is now when it comes to updating radars on my website. I had everything set automatically. Now I had to come up with a whole new layout and a whole new system, and I'm not happy when I have to do extra work on top of the already big pile of work that I have to do.
It's terrible. I think I brought up yesterday that on the Upton, the New York National Weather Service Forecast Office website, that when you go to the radar now, that there are no counties indicated on the map. It's a bare bones thing,
Yeah,
and
you can go in there and you can put the counties on, but it's a pain in the
I don't
neck.
want to do that.
I understand. I don't want you to do that either, Joe. I wanted, it should be
I don't want
there.
to do work.
Exactly. I agree. And we pointed out yesterday that, of course, with all the colors that they have, the color for snow and the color for a heavier band of rain were the same. The color for ice and I forgot what the combinations were, but they were on they're basically on polar opposites, and they have the same color, or almost the same color for both of them. The average person, I mean, I'm colorblind. I mean, I'm I have no clue. And you can tell by the way I dress, but my taste in clothes. But seriously, it's like yeah, no, fix it. Go back to the old one. It was fine. It wasn't broke. Don't fix it.
Did they go to this new format because the old format was using up too much bandwidth? Is that
And
what
you
the
know what? That could very well be. I don't. I that that's. I bet you that's part of it. And it's also knowing government, if they've got money budgeted and they don't spend it, then the next year they don't get it. So they may somebody must have said, hey, we got this extra money. Let's kill two birds with one stone. Upgrade the radar, reduce the bandwidth. No, definitely. Actually, Joe, thinking about it, it definitely reduced the bandwidth because they had all these GIF loops of all these different radars all over the place, and now there was no need for them because you can go to the interactive radar and get whatever you want.
right?
So yeah, it probably saved a ton of bandwidth because GIFs eat up, especially if you got 1,000 of them, they're going to eat up a lot of bandwidth. So yeah, they probably figured let's kill two birds with one stone. So I'm glad somebody, sometimes we folks that live in the weather world, we kind of think we're the only, it's just us in a little corner somewhere, but we actually have impact every once in a while.
Yes. So I'm happy that other people feel the same way that we did, and I hope that they do rectify this soon because it just is absolutely the worst. I noticed, if you notice, they had it originally scheduled to make the change on December 16th. That was the day of our snowstorm, and they held off a day or two. And I guess they figured, well, if we did it during a snowstorm and people didn't like it, we would hear probably twice as much in terms
Oh,
of
that would not have played
incidents.
well.
No, it
That
would
would
not at
not have
all.
played well.
It would not have all.
Robert Russo and Steve Lapointe are two early super chat hitters, and Joe and I appreciate that very much. That puts a little more cash into the champagne till for New Year's Eve. And we're halfway to 100, or just about halfway. We've got 48 likes. Thank you for those of you who have hit the like button on the live stream. And if you do like the show and haven't hit the like button, please do so. We love it when we get over 100 likes. Joe and I basically dance in the streets when that happens. So hit that like button and uh, let's get going, shall we?
Let's
Surely.
do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
So here's a question. Uh, I mean, I'm thinking that we might have some freezing rain issues inland on Friday, late Thursday night into Friday afternoon. I think it's going to be north of Route 84, and I'm trying to get my arms around how much ice accretion we might get out of this. I don't know
Well,
what your thoughts are on this at the moment, so I thought
first
I'd
of all,
ask you
you and
first.
I differ here because you're saying Thursday night into Friday morning, possibly. I think, quite frankly, that cold high that is going to build into the Northeast is actually going to suppress the clouds and also precipitation to the south of us temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
And so we should not have much of a problem either Thursday night or maybe into the first half of the day on Friday. But I do mention, at least in my forecast, that by midday or afternoon on Friday, that we could be looking at freezing rain, sleet, or ice along or north, basically, of the I-84
All
corridor.
right, so we got the geography right. I was thinking more, moving south to north through Pennsylvania, say early Friday morning, and then maybe getting up to north of 84 around midday. I agree with you on the suppression. I just don't know how far south that suppression is going to be.
Right. Well, I think that the important thing is that a lot of people, although you shouldn't because of COVID-19, but a lot of people plan to go out late Thursday night, and maybe still will be around early Friday as we transition from 2020 to 2021. And also, a lot of people who've been on the roadways. The last thing you would want to see to happen would be icy conditions on the roadways. But I do think that we are going to see, with that cold air, that shallow layer of cold air, a shot of frozen precip initially. And again, the tricky part is at this far in advance is trying to pin down where it's going to be. And I think north and west of New York City, I don't think it will be north and west of 287, although it might, in days to come, we might see it become more clear that
Hmm.
it could be north of 287. But right now, I would say more like north of 84. In other words, up toward, let's say, northern Orange County, Dutchess County, Sullivan County, Ulster County. Up in that area is where you might have to be concerned about slick and slippery conditions. Further south,
I'm
yeah.
wondering whether further up, and we're probably not going to know this until we get a little closer to game time here. But uh, I'm thinking parts of upstate New York, maybe along I-90, they could be maybe some areas might get some serious ice accretion out of this. If With the high looks a little more stubborn than I first imagined it to be. So again, it might be another day or two before we can put our fingers on it. And by the way, I was actually did a little just digging around about the fact that, um, and I've never seen one. Have you ever seen an ice accretion tool?
No.
Yeah, it's some kind of L-shaped thing that they use to measure ice accretion. I think that's what it's called. And every weather station is supposed to have two of them because you're supposed to use it. You're supposed to have it at the outside air temperature when you measure. I believe that's how I read it. I just you learn even after 40 years, Joe. You learn that there's a weather tool out there that you don't have.
And ice accretion, that's something new. I mean, no, not the term ice accretion, but an actual tool
Right.
for it.
Yeah, to
So,
measure it. So that's
yeah.
pretty cool. A lot of winter weather advisories are up tonight for areas in the upper Midwest and the upper Mississippi Valley, back down through the Central Plains and across the Central Rockies, and beyond, as far west as Nevada and into parts of the southern part of the Sierra Nevada, the Sierra Nevadas in California, and even a few winter storm warnings up for some of the mountains in Southern California, which you don't see too often, but every once in a while that happens. And we've got some winter storm watches up for the Cascades in Washington and Northern Oregon, and a small area of advisories up for north central New York. Coming in off Lake Ontario with a little bit of lake effect action going on tonight in the land of Watertown, Pulaski, and Tug Hill. So they're going to get a little bit of snow in the next 24 hours or so. And as far as that snow is concerned, I think I built a snow map here someplace. I'm having a feeling now. Yes, I figured this happened. Every once in a while, when I use the digital weather map on the weather service, it kind of resets on its own. Usually happens right around showtime for some reason. I don't know why it has to do it now, But just to show you some of the snowfall forecast amounts. Now, some of this is lake effect that you're seeing in the Northeast, and some of this has to do with this approaching weather front that's going to come burst on the scene maybe late Wednesday or Wednesday night in upstate New York. But most of this is from what's going on from the lake effect, and some 7-inch amounts, 7 to 8 inch amounts up north of Syracuse. Syracuse forecast to get 5. Rochester about 1. By the way, I also saw Joe. I saw the numbers for the snow total so far this evening, this season, um, are as far as relative. Most stations are close to average, and oddly enough, though, there are a couple that are below average, but Rochester being one of them, and Buffalo would have been another one, except for the fact that they picked up like 30 inches back over the weekend. So they are no longer in way below normal. They're actually a little bit running a little bit above average.
Right,
So, and of
right.
course, we're running a little bit above average here on the I-95 corridor from say south of Philadelphia all the way up to Boston because of just the one snowfall we had almost 2 weeks ago now. And as far as the snows go in the Midwest, the upper Midwest, lower Mississippi, the upper Mississippi Valley, and points west and south from there, looks like this is a 3 to 6, 4 to 8 inch snowfall. And this is, by the way, through Thursday evening. So this covers a couple of weather systems that are going to produce this snowfall. There might even be some 9 and 10 inch amounts in parts of Iowa and Wisconsin, and also you can see some significant snowfall amounts on the order of several to 6 inches or more as we move our way back into the Colorado Rockies. Even seeing some 1 foot plus amounts in a few places. So somebody's getting snow. If it's not the Northeast, there are places that are getting it, and now we just kind of take a slow trip there because there's not going to be too much happening between now and early Friday morning at the earliest.
Yeah, and this system, I was listening to one radio station earlier today, playing this up and saying or suggesting that the system coming our way for later in the week would be very similar to what we went through Christmas Eve into Christmas morning in terms of precipitation, in terms of wind, and thing. And I just like shook my head. I said, where are they getting this? Because
Well,
it shouldn't
they
be anything like
apparently
that.
they're reading newspapers from 4 days ago
Yeah,
because at first it looked like it was going to be something very similar, but it quickly morphed into something else, and
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 in
and,
terms of
and
the
that's
wind, the
old
wind is not going to
news.
be. I don't even see. I mean, tomorrow, for example, we may see winds out of the northwest, west northwest, at times gusting to 20, 25 miles an hour. Tomorrow might be the windiest or the breeziest day that we'll see all of this week, in my
Yes,
humble
I
opinion.
agree. I agree. And the other tough fight with this is going to be temperatures because um, when that cold front moves south with the high where it is and the wind coming in from the northeast, uh, it's going to get raw and cold in many areas, and depending on the warm front coming back up northward, some place that I'm wondering how far north that warm front's going to get.
Well, it may very well, when it reaches our vicinity, it may be in the process of getting pinched off
Yes,
by the cold front sweeping in from the west. So we
I
may,
I agree.
unlike Christmas morning where we saw temperatures even up here rise into the 60s, we may not see anything like that this time around because of the much colder dome of air that'll be descending southward across the Northeast for Thursday night and Friday.
Right, total agreement. So here's the useless National Weather Service radar, as unusable as the Washington Post puts it, uh, quote unusable, showing some of the snow that's already broken out over Colorado and back through parts of Utah and also into Nebraska and Kansas. So seeing some precip there and a little bit up in northern Michigan. So I'm trying to move it over, and the echoes sort of half appear and half don't. And then we've got what looks like some rather active lake effect going on at the moment on the east shores of Lake Ontario in north central New York, around Watertown, Tug Hill, Pulaski, north of Syracuse, and there are some snow showers that extend south from there. Into some of them have reached into the parts of the northern Catskills, north of Binghamton and Oneonta, and also back down into southwest New York around Jamestown and in northwestern Pennsylvania. So hopefully, and by the way, I have all the counties on. I put them on just for you because I know you said you like counties, and I put them on there.
Well, it's just to be expected if you're going to be using or looking at radar. I mean, if
You
you,
want to
like I
know
say,
where the stuff is.
I mean, for the average person who goes on the National Weather Service site and sees that radar near the bottom of the screen, I mean, back in the day, you had everything. You had the counties, you had the names, everything. Look at it now. It's just the land masses, and that's it. There's nothing else. You have to do the work, as I said. You're the one you mentioned that there are methods to put everything on, but why do that? I mean, I had it at my disposal, my fingertips,
Mm-hmm.
and now I have to go. I have to stop everything now and fiddle with the stupid bars here to put counties on, names on, or whatever. It's just and colors.
Bill Rogers says he has begged me not to use this radar. And I understand that, but you're missing the point, Bill. I mean, we just talked about the story on the Washington Post about how unusable the radar is, and I'm just proving their point.
And Adam Lowe says you and I are I-95 biased because that is our base. Well, I mean, like you're right, Adam. I mean, most people who are watching us are in the general vicinity of the tri-state New York area, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut. But yeah, we do know that there are people. Some folks are watching us in Canada. Some are watching us in England and Ireland. But I mean, the main demographic is our area, the immediate New York City area.
Yeah, exactly. But we've got people from all over the place, so we just, you know,
Alaska.
yeah, of course, and sometimes from the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico and the Leeward and the Windward Islands. We have, and even Australia. We've had folks from Australia watching. So yeah, we do have quite a wide audience. Okay, so let's roll along as we have our cold front coming through tonight here. Just kind of widen out so you can see what's going on with the system that's coming out of the southwest. And in fact, if you look on the satellite, very well defined shortwave trough in that southern stream, Joe, that's moved into the southwest. That's going to be coming out. Now, WPC only goes out 72 hours on their freezing rain maps. I was looking to see if I could find a long range for it, but I really didn't find anything that I thought was useful. But in 72 hours, just want to point out that in the middle Mississippi Valley in Missouri and in parts of eastern Kansas and western Illinois, they're looking at, at least a 50% chance of ice accretion of at least a tenth of an inch showing up in the darker and lighter blues. And then, of course, you've got the darker green. So there's going to be some ice issues here. This only takes us, by the way, through the daytime Thursday. So we're not going to see it show up in the Northeast yet, except for that teeny tiny little brown patch, probably right over Chuck Cardillo's house in the Catskills, up in northern Sullivan County. I think tomorrow, at least WPC will be in its range. The only thing I did find, at least from the standpoint of their forecast for snow, and this is going into Saturday morning for upstate New York and into up to northern New England, where you have a 30 to 50% chance of at least an inch of snow up in the northern parts of northern New Hampshire and northwestern Maine. A large area of 10%, 10 to 30% probability that extends down to just south of I-90. So we're in a pattern here that does not favor snow. Let's put it that way.
Yes, and I don't know if you had a chance, Joe. The Climate Prediction Center has the eastern United States, especially our neck of the woods, getting increasingly warmer or milder as we move into the first couple of weeks of the new year. And that doesn't seem to suggest that we're going to be seeing much in the way of frozen precipitation, at least through the first half of January. I still
Yep.
have my hopes. I still have my hopes, though, that When we get to February, it'll be a bit colder, and I think we might be looking at the one. I mean, we already had a 10-inch snowfall in New York, which is pretty large, but I think another one might be looming, even larger when we get into February. So we'll see.
Yeah, everything is. I mean, it really boils down to the fact that the East Pacific is a horror show for winter weather in the East. All the other teleconnections are in a good spot, are in good places, but the EPO is a mess, and we'll discuss that momentarily. Um,
It's
what should
kind of like in bring up Perry Mason here. It's kind of like a trial. We have a hung jury. We have all the other models saying yes, 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 but we have the Eastern Pacific uh, Oscillation saying
right 11
no.
right 11-1.
Yeah, exactly.
Guilty. All right, you know what? Let's do the upper air first. Just to illustrate this horror show that we're in. Of course, going back to this past weekend, we had the deep trough in the east that lifted out, and now we have another shortwave trough that's moved through tonight in the northeast with a weak weather front that came through today. Not much with that. You can see the diving trough in the southwest. Um, there is another shortwave for Thursday that moves by with a cold front that's going to set up the system for Friday into Friday night. And in fact, the whole southern part of the jet, Joe, is so active. And that's the one thing here that is interesting to me is that the fact that if you could ever fix this area up in here in the Gulf of Alaska and points west, which seems to be in the land of perpetual low pressure there, if you could ever repair that, and you maintain these higher pressures up in the North Atlantic and in the Arctic region, so that your Arctic oscillation is negative and your North Atlantic oscillation is negative, we could have a lot of fun with respect to snow events here in the east. But because of that, again, lower pressures, and you can see as soon as the pressures rise up in the East Pacific, in comes the next weather system or group of weather systems and troughs to lower the pressures again. So all that really does is it takes this next low surface track well to our west, and then that goes out. Now, I don't know if you looked, Joe. I was looking. There's another southern shortwave right behind this that some of the models over the last 3 or 4 days were bringing it close to us on Monday, with even the parallel GFS showing, even on today's 12Z run of the parallel GFS, actually gave a half a foot of snow from Washington all the way up to southern New England out of this. But of course, the 18Z GFS put the squash on it, and so did the 18Z parallel GFS. It seems to me that there's just not enough room. You've got another short wave in the north. The only way we're going to get something out of this for Sunday night and Monday, just to jump ahead, is you got this short wave in the north, you got this short wave in the south. The north needs to be a little bit faster to catch this thing and kind of phase with it a little bit and lift it up. Then you might have something. But as long as they stay separate, I think all you're going to do is wind up kicking that out to the east. And the only other thing I'll say about the long range is that the blocking high that forms over Greenland stays pretty firm, and starting at around I would say day 11, around day 11 or day 12, which is just about January 10th, we do finally start to see some changes out in the East Pacific, and the pattern looks a little bit colder and a little bit more favorable around mid-month. There's been a few runs like this, but I want to see it get inside the 10-day time frame, and to really convince me, I want to see it inside the 5-day time frame. So there's hints that this pattern could change around mid-month, but we've been down this road before. And the other thing is, in terms of somebody mentioned, Joe, I'm going to bring the map of Europe up because someone mentioned on the chat board, and I saw this discussed with respect to the splitting polar vortex, that one half goes into Europe, the other half goes into North America. The one that goes into Europe might be stronger than the one that goes into North America, and brings more of the Arctic cold over there. So I wanted to see what the GFS has done with it.
Somebody on the chat board mentioned that while New York does not have any snow advisories or watches or any chance of any kind of snow in the immediate future, that meanwhile in London, or I guess in England,
Mm-hmm.
they have some kind of snow uh, system going now, or
Yeah, actually, one kind of went through today that dropped southeastward from Greenland. And it looked like it brought a little bit of snow. And then again for Wednesday, it looks like a little bit of snow for parts of Ireland and Scotland, and even into southern England. Yeah, they're getting their flows coming from the northwest, so that comes right off. That basically comes from the Arctic and Greenland and Iceland right over them. So that gives them some, I guess we could call it lake effect off the ocean, or ocean effect actually, from the North Sea at times. Ooh, look
yeah.
at this! Look at this. Around day 8 or 9, there's a spinning surface low in southern England with a nice arc of snow out of that. So yeah, I mean, it does look like the chances for cold and snow over Europe increase in the next couple of weeks, while the eastern part of the United States is going to be hard pressed to see much from the standpoint of snow.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. We're only literally, folks. We're only at the beginning of the winter from an astronomical point of view. I admit, we're coming up on the end of the first month of meteorological winter when we get to January 1st. But still plenty of time. I wouldn't start. I
Oh
wouldn't
yeah,
start
no, I've
planning.
already gotten. I must have gotten at least half a dozen people posting saying that we're not going to see another snowflake or an ice pellet for the next 3 months. Not one. Not one.
No, that's
I mean,
it's.
that just is ridiculous. To,
I
to,
still
to
think
say
we're
that
going to
is ridiculous. It's beyond. There's probably a 99.99% chance of you being wrong with that, making a statement like that.
Well, I've been saying all along again that I think we'll see our share of snow in February. Who knows? This might even turn out to be one of those backloaded winters where we get in February and then maybe we'll get another shot during March. Um, Again, there's still time. I'm not
Oh my God,
I'm not
yeah.
nervous
I
here.
don't even think it's worth discussing. So here's our surface map from the latest run of the GFS. The models are. I looked at all. I looked at the European. It looked pretty much the same. I didn't really see too much difference between. The only thing I did notice on the European is got a little bit more of a robust icing event for upstate New York and western New England for Friday. So that might be something to pay attention to. But here's Tuesday night, Wednesday snow in the Great Lakes. Your weak cold front comes through. I'm going to switch to the other map so you can see the isobars. And so here comes your low. Look how far west this thing goes, Joe. It goes west of St. Louis, for God's sake.
Yeah,
And you got this actually a rather strong high that pushes down enough. Yeah, I mean, the precip doesn't really move in until during Friday morning in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and doesn't make it up to you until sometime Friday afternoon. So that it's amazing. And actually, the daytime Thursday is likely to be dry all day long from start to finish, for the most part. And then we'll get whatever rain. The gradient doesn't look especially tight. The warm front gets pinched right on top of us, which is always this is always fun when you're sitting with a front like this that gets pinched off. What side of the front are you on? Hmm.
yes.
Now we're 6 likes short of 100. Could we have 100 likes, please? It's the week before. It's the days before New Year's. This miserable year is about to end. So make it a little happier for Joe and I, and just take us over the 100 like mark. Thank you very much. So there's your low. It pulls away. Now here comes the next one from that
And you
next
can see,
short wave.
and you see what I mentioned before about how it gets pinched off maybe
Yeah,
before the
right there.
yeah, yeah.
And then after that goes out, we turn a little colder and drier for the weekend. Here's the low Now on the old run, let me just bring up the old GFS just to show the difference. It's much flatter on the new 18Z run. And I know how much you like the off-hour runs anyway, but this one actually got precip a little closer than some of the prior runs. The European actually brings precip much further north than this, and then slides it out to the east with that low on Monday. So really, the only chance any you snow lovers, if anything is the only chance you have for any snow in the short term is if there's somehow there's a surprise with this, and you wind up with a well-developed low that tracks much further to the north and manages to pull it off with a minimal amount of cold air, and that would be for later Sunday night and Monday. And at best, right now, I would say it's a long shot, but we'll see. We still have a number of runs, and we've already seen it happen a few times this winter, Joe, where actually from the late fall and into the beginning of winter, where stuff looked like it was going to be well out offshore and not a factor, and then lo and behold, it we wound up getting something out of it, be it rain or any whatever we got out of it. So it could happen.
It could, but it probably won't.
Yes, optimist that you are.
Yes, yes.
All right, so we're back up here full screen. I just want to check to see. Hold on.
Savage Stuff 20 says, remember the first winter storm was supposed to be suppressed to the south? Actually,
Well, that's just yeah.
it wasn't really supposed to be suppressed, but I mean, so much so that it wasn't going to affect us at all. But it did. But I mean, even the ensembles were saying, yeah, it was going to be pretty well off to the south and east, and it just kept getting closer and closer and closer. And the darn thing almost like passed directly over New York City. So
and also who wound up getting the 20 to 40 inches?
yes,
Way north and west of what most any model had. So, um, yeah. So look, we'll keep the door open here. It's still only Monday. So it would have to do with the speed of both the northern stream and the southern stream. If the northern stream's a little faster and catches it, then you might have a ball game to play next weekend. But other than that, it looks like there's not going to be too much happening for the next 10 days or so, and at least.
right.
All right. No, I thought maybe Scott. We're not doing. There's no Briller Jeopardy until after we get past New Year's. So
I will. I do have something here. I don't know if you saw it on my Facebook page, Joe. Over the weekend, I presented I called it a Christmas quiz,
yes, I saw that.
and
I did see it.
so you did see it, but and you probably saw the answers were posted today.
I well, naturally, I got all the answers correct.
Yeah, well,
It goes without saying. No,
I
it
mean, I could
was.
throw these out. I could throw these out to the chat board if anybody's interested.
Yeah,
I
go
mean,
go ahead. Before you do that, let me just acknowledge Enrique Lopez hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Enrique. Really appreciate it. Joe and I more for the champagne till for New Year's Eve. And Scott Briller the chairman, just hit super chat as he continues to work doing COVID runs, and we wish him safe travels because I don't know I don't know about you, Joe. I do know quite a few people that have it now. So. And thankfully, so far, knock on wood, well, one of them, a couple of them have had it seriously. The rest seem to be just on the asymptomatic side. So, get well soon, everybody. Okay, just to
yes,
give you a shout out.
absolutely,
All right, so
absolutely.
go on with your Christmas quiz.
All right. Well, we'll see if any of you have an answer to any of these, post it on the chat board. I'll run through all 10 questions and then we'll see if any of you got any answers here. The first question was, what toy makes ear-splitting noises galooks? Or galooks? The question number 2 was, when Snoopy faced off against the Red Baron on Christmas Eve, what was the ambient air temperature?
See, I thought that was a very good question.
I said I just had to throw a meteorological question into the mix here. That's question number 2. In question number 3, who is Daniel D Tompkins? And here's a hint. I'll bet you your Mr. Sawyer doesn't know that. Then the question 4 was, who will do, quote, the job when he's in town? Who will do the job when he's in town? And question 5 is going to his house would be the perfect ending to a perfect day. Going to his house would be the perfect ending to a perfect day. Question 6 was who said, quote, they sure look ripe to me? That's question 6. Who said, they sure look ripe to me? And question 7 is, what piece of advice did an ad for sweet Caporal cigarettes or Caporal cigarettes dispense to George Bailey? What piece of advice did an ad for sweet Caporal cigarettes dispense to George Bailey? And question number 8 is, and this I think everybody knows this. If you've seen Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you know what the answer is to this question. What does Hermes? When does Hermes set up an appointment for the head elf to see him?
Oh, that was 4:30 sharp.
Yes, but that's only half the answer.
Next Tuesday?
Week from
A
Tuesday,
week from Tuesday.
4:30
4:30 sharp.
sharp. Yeah. What was Mrs. Claus's first name?
Oh, Jessica.
Jessica. That's from the annual Christmas special, Santa Claus is Coming to Town,
Right.
starring Fred Astaire, Mickey Rooney, and who played Winter, the voice of Winter. Um, his father was oh yeah, Keenan Wynn, who was the son of Ed Wynn, who played the voice of the Winter Warlock. And
Right.
yes, Jessica was Mrs. Claus's first name.
Now, the cigarette ad was in It's a Wonderful Life
Right,
in the drugstore scene.
right.
Okay. And the first question about was it
But
the schnooks?
the thing was about the cigarettes is
Yeah,
what is
ask
that?
Dad.
Ask Dad. That's
Yeah.
right. In the movie, the druggist, Mr. Gower, accidentally put poison in capsules that he was supposed to deliver to a little sick boy, and George is conflicted. Does he tell Mr. Gower, or does he just throw away the capsules? So finally, he catches sight of the Sweet Caporal ad hanging on a nearby wall. The ad suggests, "Ask Dad, he knows." And then he runs off to talk to his father about this problem. So
All right, Bill Rogers on the chat board asks, I'm still in a loop about what the EPO is and why it matters. Okay, so Bill, the EPO, the East Pacific Oscillation, it's kind of like the North Atlantic Oscillation, except it's in the East Pacific, which goes without saying. What these oscillations basically are is they look at specific geographic areas and just take a simple addition and subtraction of the pressure, the pressure difference. Okay, so when you have higher pressures, and the geographic area of the East Pacific Oscillation is actually more in the northern part of the Pacific, and the northeastern part of the Pacific. And there's some other geography in there. It goes out a ways to the west, but it's really that area up, say, off the west coast of Canada, south of Alaska, and extends out. I believe it goes past out the Aleutians. So when the pressures are higher there, all right, so follow me because it's a little counterintuitive, but when the pressures are higher there, much like when the pressures are higher in the North Atlantic, they are lower in the mid latitudes. So your cold air is going to get displaced further south. So the oscillation, the way it's calculated, high pressure, I believe it's high pressure minus low pressure, or low pressure minus high pressure. The equations are actually, if you go on NOAA's website, if you Google the East Pacific Oscillation, you can actually see, it's the addition and subtraction that goes on, and it's fairly straightforward. So when the North Atlantic Oscillation is negative and when the East Pacific Oscillation is negative, it basically means there are higher pressures further north and lower pressures further south, so cold air winds up getting suppressed further south. And that's why the EPO is important. In fact, I have said, and Joe has heard me many times, when we talk, a lot of the snow lovers and the snow weenies they always go to that North Atlantic oscillation, the Greenland block, and everything else. And I have said many, many times, and I'll say it again. I'd give me a negative East Pacific oscillation any day of the week. I'll take my chances with everything else because that EPO really drives. When that EPO is negative, and you have higher pressures up in Western Canada and across that part of the Pacific, it causes cold air to spread out all across Canada and into the northern part of the U.S. I'll take my chances not having any blocking, and that's as simple as that.
And basically, what you're saying, Joe, is don't put all your eggs in just one basket.
No, no, yeah. I mean, it's really what's fascinating to me is I've heard this argument for so long talking about how well the Arctic oscillation is, it has to be negative, and well, it is. It's not only negative; it's off the wall negative. And then I read something from Dr. Judah Cohen that said that it's so off the wall negative that the when you look at it, what's going on the maps, you would think it was off the wall positive. It's having the opposite effect of what you would have expected.
Isn't that what
And
we were saying last year, though?
yeah,
We
it's
said
just it's
last year it was supposed to be a La Nada year.
right.
We didn't
And
really,
and we had
and yet it looked every bit like an El Nino year with
yes,
the Arctic oscillation.
exactly. And this year, we have, if this were a strong La Nina year, you would have a wrapped up polar vortex in the Arctic, which you really don't have. And in fact, you have higher pressures all over the Arctic region. But again, it's that East Pacific oscillation that's a mess. It's 4 standard deviations above the mean positive. So as off the wall as the other two are, the NAO, but particularly the Arctic oscillation being off the wall negative, the EPO, the East Pacific oscillation, is off the wall positive. I mean, if it was even just neutral, the snow lovers would be dancing in the streets here in the eastern part of the United States. But it isn't. So they're not dancing at all. And that's it. Yes.
That's the best I can do right now.
Parabola bomba on your graph paper. So
I'll do the mambo.
so what's our deal this week, Joe? We haven't discussed this. Are we doing New Year's Eve or I mean I got nothing going on, so if you
I've
know
got nothing going on either. I'm here all this week.
all right,
So
so we can do that. We'll have our show tomorrow, Wednesday night and Thursday night, like it's a normal week, and then we'll see what happens when we get to Friday. I guess that's probably a good way
whatever.
of looking at it. That works for
Whatever.
you?
Does it works for me. Let me just quickly finish off
Yeah,
the
finish your
test.
quiz.
All right, the quiz. We already talked about the toy that makes ear-splitting noises, galooks, was the great big electro-hucarnio schnook,
Right, and that was from the Grinch.
and that was from the Grinch. When Snoopy faced off against the Red Baron on Christmas Eve, the air temperature was 40 below, and that was from the song by the Royal Guardsmen. At 40 below, when Snoopy went up to search for his foe. Daniel D. Tompkins, this is interesting. In the movie Miracle on 34th Street, this is the very first one with Maureen O'Hara, and that particular they made like 3 or 4 versions of this movie, but this is the very first one, the original version. And Kris Kringle, who claims to be Santa Claus, states that he has passed all psychological tests, brags that he knows that John Quincy Adams, vice president, was Daniel D. Tompkins. And he says that he bets that Mr. Sawyer, who was the staff psychologist at Macy's, didn't know that. But that was incorrect, Joe. John Quincy Adams, vice president, was John Calhoun.
Yes.
Tompkins was James Monroe's vice president, but Daniel Tompkins was our 6th vice president. John Quincy Adams was our 6th president. They just didn't line up. So it's probably an honest mistake based upon the script writers who wrote that particular line. Who will do the job when he's in town? In the song Winter Wonderland, it's Parson Brown. We can build a snowman in the meadow, pretend that it's him. He'll say, "Are you married?" We'll say, "No, man, but you could do the job when you're in town." That's where we get that line from. Going to his house would be the perfect ending to a perfect day. In the song Sleigh Ride, It's a party at the home of Farmer Gray. And depending upon what version of the song you're listening to, it's either a Christmas party or a birthday party. Who said they look
What? Who said what?
who said they look right to me? I'm just thinking about somebody on my Facebook page who gave me an answer. It was in a Charlie Brown Christmas. The kids are catching snowflakes on their tongues,
All right.
but
Yes.
Lucy refuses to do so, saying it's too early, that she never catches December snowflakes, but she waits until January, to which her brother Linus says, they look right to me.
Nice.
We did Sweet Capital cigarettes. Uh, Hermie, we did that one, and Mrs. Claus. And there was one bonus question: What is the name of Uncle Billy in It's a Wonderful Life? What was the name of Uncle Billy's wife? And his wife's name was Laura. When they're searching in desperation for the $8,000 that he put in the newspaper and gave to Mr. Potter, stupidity there. Um, Uncle Henry says, Uncle Billy says to George, I looked everywhere, including drawers and closets that were around when my dear Laura was alive. So it was Laura who was the name of Uncle Billy's wife. And after we're done here and we're off the air, I'll tell you why I was laughing about the question. They sure look right to me.
Okay. All right. So let's call it a night here. All right. So
Why not?
give me 1 second here, and as we say good night, we just want to remind everybody that the Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by our friends at Omni True Value Hardware, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, just north of the Southern State Parkway on Long Island, and they are Long Island's largest rock salt provider, and they service all of the tri-state area. So if you need uh, new equipment or rock salt or any of the snow melting products, including Petalo, which is considered one of the best snow and ice melting products around, Omni's got it for you. 631-756-1125. The best prices in town. OmniTrueValue.com is the website. And by the way, when we get the next winter storm, just going to remind everybody that they are open during those winter storms. So if you've got a crew
They were open
or
at 3 a.m. for
that's
goodness
right.
sake.
They opened at 3 a.m. while it was still snowing. So if you got a crew or you got to get stuff at the last minute, they're available to you. So just bear that in mind. So all right. So we'll see you tomorrow,
We'll be here.
and we'll see everybody on the chat board here tomorrow. Thanks for being here tonight. Robert Russo, Steve Lapointe, Enrique Lopez, and Scott Briller, all super chat contributors tonight. 141 likes. Thanks to everybody for being here, and we will see you tomorrow.
Good night.